Hello all, I'm Sai and you're watching The Book Dragon. In today's video, I'm bringing to you my review of Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This is the second book in the Shadow and Bone trilogy. My review for the first book, Shadow and Bone, is already out now. I'll link it down in the description. You can check it out if you're interested. So without any further ado, let's get into the various parts of the review right away. First, talking about the plot of Siege and Storm. It starts weeks after the end of Shadow and Bone, which is the first book, and two of our three main characters end up on a boat trying to save their lives in order to find this mythical creature called the Sea Whip that we can see on this cover. It's kind of a water dragon that needs to be found only in the sea, hence it's called the Sea Whip, and it is also a very ancient creature that's been talked about a lot in many of the myths that are surrounding this world called the Grishaverse. And most of the story actually happens in various parts of Ravka and also some of the other countries within the Grishaverse. And I can also easily say that this is the book in which the politics of the Grishaverse plays a lot more role rather than the first book and the third book in the trilogy, and it is mostly political in multiple aspects. And I should also say the politics is very well established and maneuvered by the author in this one. It doesn't feel boring at any instant at all, and it does not feel repetitive. There are certain things which happen in this one which also bring back some of the main characters that we saw in the first book together, and there are some drastic changes that have happened in the plot because of some things which happened in the end of the first book. I'm trying to keep it as much spoiler free as possible. That's why I'm not revealing what all happened in the first book. The special thing about our main character is that he has this mythical power in order to summon something, in order to destroy this thing called the Shadow Fold, which separates the land of Ravka into two halves. You can just check out my first review. I've told all the basic things about the plot of this entire trilogy in that one. Moving on to the characters, apart from the three main characters that we saw in the first book, who are Alina herself and her best friend Mal and the Darkling, we get a fourth main character who is very much pivotal for the progression of the entire series as a whole, and it is this privateer called Sturmhond. Okay, it is the ship on Sturmhond that Alina and Mal are right now, and he's kind of providing a protection for them against the antagonist who's trying to hunt down both of them and try to make them certain things that they are not interested in doing. And it is really well put together by the author. Apart from the four main characters that we see in this book, we also get multiple side characters who get into the story, especially Grisha characters who are going to make huge changes in this one. There are also some characters like Zoya from the first book who are just shown in glimpses for us in that book and enhanced a lot more in this one, and their journey in this travel of Alina in order to do certain things that she's meant to do as her destiny are really well put together. There is this twins called Tolia and Tamar who work together along with this privateer called Sturmhond, and the things that they do are also really very beautiful. We get some character interactions which we have been expecting a lot from the first book, and there is also a very great character revelation almost 100 to 150 pages into the book, and we get to know whom a character named someone else is, and that character is definitely my most favorite of all the characters in this entire universe. Moving on to the world building, which is a very strong pillar for this book, especially of all the three, and it is that the book mostly does not happen inside Ravka itself. The first book, Shadow and Bone, happens inside Ravka, especially in the Little Palace where the Grisha are trained, but in this book, it does not happen inside the Little Palace. Most of the things that happen in the plot of this one happen outside the Little Palace, and especially most of the important parts of the plot happen in this ship in which Alina and Mal are there, being housed by Sturmhond. And I should say, in making that, the author has expanded the world a lot because we get to know a lot more about the three other countries inside this world that the author is trying to explain to us, namely Fjerda, Shuhan and Kerch. And each and every currency, the languages that they speak, each and everything is different for these various countries, and even the cultures that the people follow in different parts of the same country are also very different. And all those diverse elements that are added into the building of this world make it even more realistic and even more magical. Apart from all these things, the magic system that is explained quite so well in the first book itself is fleshed out a lot more in this one. We get to know a lot more about the history of how the magic works in this world and all the intricacies that need to be followed in order to master the small science, which is the magic that is followed by the Grisha in this world. Apart from all these things, there are also certain ways in order to amplify the magic that the Grisha has, and they have to do some horrible stuff in order to amplify their magic, but it is for the greater good as they call it, and how the lives of Grisha are and how the lives of the ancient Grisha were, how Grisha are treated in several countries of this entire universe. Ravka is the only country which actually houses the Grisha and values them compared to all the other countries where their lives are at stake most of the time. All those things build the world in a really good way in this one. Moving on to the writing. This is a book that has a lot of political tension going on, just as I said before. Apart from the political tensions, we also have some character interactions which are really dense and thick at multiple instances, but the author knows how to cool down that density and the intensity of the scenes by just uttering small, subtle, humorous dialogues. Especially the dialogues that the author has written for Stormhaunt, who's the privateer that I talked about, are so hilarious. Okay, each and everything, most of the things that Stormhaunt says are actually very quotable. Okay, there is this particular dialogue which Stormhaunt says, which is one of my most favorite quotes from this entire series, and it is, when people say impossible, they usually mean improbable. Okay, that's a sentence which you think and reflect on will mean a lot of things to you. It just talks about the endurance and perseverance that people have to have in order to do the things that they want to do, even though others think that it is not possible. It's just improbable. Okay, that's one dialogue which I loved a lot. Apart from this, there are also multiple metaphors that the author uses in this one as well, just like in the first book, and all those metaphors mostly are used by the character whom I talked about, Stormhaunt again, and it is really well portrayed. Okay, comparing to the first book, the writing in this one has enhanced in multiple levels. The first book itself doesn't feel like the first book of an author, but in this one the growth is to such a great extent that it feels like an entirely different style of writing from that one, yet the originality of Leigh Bardugo's writing style is maintained in this one. Finally, talking about the pacing of this book, just as I said before multiple times, it is a heavily political book compared to the other two books in the series. So the politics is concentrated a lot more, and that does affect the pace in big ways. So the pacing of this book is comparatively slower than the first and the final books, but it is a really strong bridge between the things that happen between book 1 and book 3, because there are multiple characters who occur in this one that play pivotal roles for the progression of the series, just as I said before. And I should say, though the pacing is slow, it is maintained consistently throughout the story. It doesn't feel like we are slow in the beginning and it is just building up towards the end, except the climax portion of the book. Most of the book, that is, except the climax portion of the book, all the other parts of the book are entirely slow paced. Okay, it's not like it is snail paced that you'll not be able to read it at all and feel sleepy. It is just slow enough that you get the intrigue that the politics has to provide and the development of these characters as we see them, and all the things that they learn about this world along with us, because the main character whom we see, she doesn't know that she's a Grisha. She just gets to know in the first book, and her knowledge about the Grishaverse is not that great. She knows about the thing that she has to do, being a cartographer, but nothing else, and all those things that are explained as one make the plot a bit slower but makes it a better experience if you ask me. And yeah, I rated this one also 5 stars, since this has the introduction of my most favorite character in this series, and I just enjoyed it a lot. Okay, that's all for today, and if you did find this video helpful in some way or the other, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. If you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel, because I publish new videos every Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.